All right, everyone, before we get started today, I need to tell you about our amazing teammates at Darby Communications. If you run an outdoor, an endurance, or an active lifestyle brand, there is no better PR or digital marketing belay partner or drinking buddy than Darby. They can help your business reach new heights, and they might just keep you from falling on your ass. Since we started working with Darby, more and more people have been reaching out to us here at the Rock Fight because of that messaging. Look, guys, if they can help us, they can help anybody. Hit them up at darbycommunications.com. Do it today.
Rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight, rock fight.
Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin Eoin, and today I'm joined by outdoor industry insider and Rock Fight consigliere Owen Comerford to talk about the news that broke this morning that REI CEO Eric Artz is out, and former Nike, Athleta, and Sephora executive Mary Beth Laughton is in as head of outdoors' largest retailer, REI. We're recording this at about noon Pacific time. News came out 9 o'clock here on the West Coast, about noon East Coast time, that Eric Artz would be, quote, retiring effective at the end in March. We didn't have an exact date, but retiring effective in March. If any other details come out later in the day, that's why we didn't cover them here on the pod, because this is kind of a breaking story. But per a press release announcing the news this morning, Chris Carr, chair of the REI board of directors, was quoted as saying, "Eric has led and stabilized REI through some of the most challenging years the retail sector and our co-op ever faced. REI is in a strong position today because he always kept our purpose, values, and people as his North Star." And regarding the incoming CEO, Mary Beth Laughton, Carr said in the same press release, "Mary Beth has the ideal experience to build on this foundation and to lead REI forward into our next chapter. The world needs a strong REI, and we are confident Mary Beth will hit the ground running." Owen, we're back here in the Rock Fight talking about REI again.
I know.
Seems to be a common theme.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you and I had said off mic at certain times that, if REI were a public company, more than likely Eric would have been out a while ago. And that's not to lay all of this stuff at Eric's feet. Obviously he's...
Yeah, retiring was an interesting choice of words, right?
Well, and you know what?
I wouldn't call... from his perspective, is he retiring?
I don't know. He's 56, so he's my age. I don't know. Here's what I'd say. It's been a tumultuous few years at REI. I could certainly see... and from everything I know, and I've heard Eric is a good guy. I don't know him, but I've heard he's a good human. But I'm sure it's been a tough 2 years personally. I could see retiring. I could also see a conversation where they said we need to go a different direction. So don't know. I have no intel one way or the other.
So what were your overall thoughts, though? We talked about them retiring, but what's next? What do you see going on over there as this is unfolding?
Well, I think the biggest question, certainly on the minds of REI employees, is what does this mean for us relative to the layoffs and all those other things? And this could go one of two ways. So one thought process is, hey, if we're going to do big restructuring things, unpopular things, let's do all that under the old guy. So he takes all the arrows, and then the new person comes in as the shining knight to, save the day. So I'm hopeful for REI employees that that's the case. The alternative story would be kind of the opposite, which is to say that there's still a lot more structural change that has to happen at the co-op. Eric maybe doesn't have the appetite for it. We need to bring in somebody who will do the tough things and make the tough decisions. So, and as insiders, I think that they'll probably have a sense as to which way the wind is going to blow there.
Okay, so we talk about, the circumstances of him leaving, whether it was voluntary or whatever. How long is a process like this playing out? Is this something that comes together pretty quickly? I'm sure there were other people in the mix, this isn't just we started this earlier this week and now Mary Beth is in and Eric is out. And because did he tell them I'm retiring? How do you kind of see, how do these things sort of transpire or come about behind the scenes?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that actually in the announcement, Eric is leaving at the end of March. It sounds like Mary Beth is starting kind of right away in a president role. So, and that's going to give her, basically a couple of months to get the lay of the land, to visit a bunch of stores and FCs and, and all these things. So it is an orderly transition. which is good for everybody, quite frankly. That tells me that it's been a little bit in the making, probably a couple of months. It's quite possible that, that Eric kind of got to the end of the year and said, hey, I've gotten this I've restabilized things, and now it's time for me to move on. Right. So
the Rock Fight did another episode about us. I'm out, you got.
It can only take so much. Right. So but if I had to guess, it was relatively recent. I'm sure though that there have been conversations at the board level about leadership at some point in this process.
Right.
They've basically replaced almost every other executive, right, over the last 3 years.
Right.
So the old guard is very much gone. I think Chris Spire was the last of the quote unquote the old guard that left middle of last year. Now the chief merchant over at MEC. And brought in just a ton of new folks like the Cameron James from Amazon as an example. I think a lot of people had him pegged as maybe the next CEO, given that he had gone from chief commercial officer to take on the COO role recently, and so that was viewed as a potential there. So, I think it's, but I think Mary Beth is an interesting hire. Just full disclosure, our paths have crossed in the past. We were part of a group that really was of really omni-channel, omni-retail leaders in the space, and so we'd get together kind of once a year and talk all things omni-channel. So very, very respected and experienced person in the space, I would say.
Definitely want to talk about Mary Beth in a second. Before, let's wrap up on Eric. His time at REI spanned 12 years total, 6 being spent as CEO. So, most of that time that he was in, the big chair was, there was some sort of marketplace chaos happening, right? I think if you look on LinkedIn anyway, he's end of 2019, middle of 2019. So basically it's been COVID, and the fallout of COVID is, going to be his legacy at REI. How do you think we will view his REI legacy when we look back?
Well, I think it's still yet to be written, right? The future will determine how we view the past. I will tell you though, as being a retail CEO living through COVID, it was fucking exhausting. I can't even tell you because for so many years within the industry, it was the seasons changed, but it was kind of the same stuff, same promotions. You'd tweak this, tweak that, bring on a new brand, whatever, right? When COVID hit, one day was never the same as the last. There was nothing.
It's out the window.
Everything
right?
was out the window.
Yeah.
All the rules were broken. Everybody was pissed off in terms of whether it's your retail employees or whatever else. I think Eric genuinely cares about the folks at the co-op, and as a CEO, you want to do what's right for your people, but you've also got to keep the wheels on. It was brutal, quite frankly. And then there was the ups in 21 and 22, and things were great, and then the down, and so ultimately though, I think some of the longer lasting legacy elements for Eric are going to be more on the social issue side of things. He really pushed the co-op forward there. Supplier code of conduct, really leaning into sustainability in a lot of ways, and other areas that maybe the co-op had talked to over the years, but really were codified during his leadership.
All right, well, let's transition over to Eric's successor. What do we know? You mentioned you know her, but what do we know kind of more publicly about Mary Beth Laughton?
So, former director of REI. So I think that is great from the REI perspective, because you do have somebody that's coming in that actually knows more about the business than just the surface level stuff. So I think that's good, and really comes from Omni Retail, right? VP of Omni Retail at Sephora, then really led Athleta. Well, I go Athleta.
I say Athleta.
Okay, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to go with Athleta. If somebody, by the way,
let's call the whole thing off.
If somebody can,
Athleta,
right? Potato. If somebody wants to tell us what it actually is, and then we can be corrected forever the future forward. But I'm going to go with we're going with Athleta. Anyway, so led that through, some ups and downs, quite frankly, some initial growth, and then things were a little challenged there towards the end. And then most recently, head of global D2C at Nike. So what I like about her background from REI's perspective, as opposed to maybe some of the other executives, quite frankly, that they've brought in, is that she's coming from a performance background, right? This is human powered performance, whether it's Athleta and yoga or Nike and all the things that Nike does. So I think she understands that business. The one piece maybe that is on the other side, though, is that it's all sort of brand D2C stuff, right? There's no selling of other brands. There's no wholesale, understanding that side of the business, which still is a pretty big chunk of what REI does.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of that's another thing that makes a brand like REI unique, right? It's like they make all their own stuff, but then they also sell everybody else's stuff. Oh, and they have brick and mortar stores, and they're also an e-commerce platform. So it's kind of the whole ball of wax.
And I think from an omni-channel, omni-retail perspective, that's all very much in Mary Beth's background. I think the question is, given though that she doesn't have that, the wholesale retail side of it, is that an indication that they're really looking for somebody to take the private brand piece to an even higher level of penetration to the business?
So you mentioned she's been on the board of directors, was for 3 years. Most of her background, though, not outdoors, right? Which is sort of a concern, a criticism that was lobbied at Eric Artz for a lot of his tenure, right? He's kind of more of a retail background versus an outdoor background. However, Eric did spend 6 years at REI before getting the CEO gig, so definitely was exposed to the sort of outdoor world, through his other jobs there. Given REI's headwinds, I mean, is I guess if you want to say there's more of the same in terms of background in the leadership capacity, is that a reason for concern? Would you have expected if there was a change to have a more sort of outdoor industry rooted individual in that chair?
Certainly not based upon how REI has hired in the recent past, but also no, because the cupboard was bare internally relative to long-lived REI executives. Again, as we said, that nobody's been there for I think more than a few years. And secondly, when you're the 800-pound gorilla in the industry, right? Typically, you're going to go out and you want to find somebody that's operated at the same level of scale that you have. So that really doesn't exist unless you're willing to go to a brand, like poach somebody from the F Corp or the North Face or something like that. You're really not going to find anybody that's operated at that kind of scale within the outdoor industry.
I guess last thing here, is this just the beginning of anything? Is there any concern for layoffs, other changes? Is this a domino about to tumble, or is this, you think, maybe just they're making a swap and we'll see how things play out over the next few months?
If I had to guess, I would say that there's going to be a time of figuring it out, right? Where you get in, most CEOs in these sort of situations, they have a 100-day plan, right? They're like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running, and these are the things I'm going to look at first. I'm going to dig into store ops. I'm going to dig into, what's my merchandise pipeline? What is my, really get through all of that. And I think it's helpful that Eric is sticking around for a couple of months to give Mary Lou time to kind of digest all of that. And then I would hope that she will be given
Mary Beth.
Sorry, Mary Beth. What's this?
You said Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou Retton.
That's right.
She's back.
That's right. No.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No. It's clearly that transition will be an important time.
Yeah.
Right. She's actually, so it's not. It is good that it's not just a quick. This guy's out the door and she's coming in and figure it out.
And I mean, if I were in Mary Beth's shoes, my expectation is that as the CEO, I would have the purview to be able to course correct as needed, right? You don't want to be just a caretaker, like, hey, here's all the things we've decided to do for the next 5 years. This is the direction. Now just go ahead and execute it.
Right.
You want to be able to come in and put your stamp on things and the experience that you've built up over these years in the industry to be able to apply that to hopefully make an impact in a positive way to the business.
Well, and we need to make sure we book her for a lot of times here on the Rock Fight to come on and talk to us about what's happening over there, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure. I haven't checked my texts lately, so I'm sure it's just blowing up with. No, I mean, I would.
When can I come on?
We would love to have Mary
Yeah,
Beth
definitely.
on, if not, or Mary Lee Retton too. I mean, if she's out there, we'd love to have her on as well.
Sure, she's
But
definitely.
but no, we'd love to have Mary Beth on. I'm guessing, and you know, as much as I think we're kind of the shit, I'm guessing we're not her first call. But hey.
Well, Mary Beth, you're missing out on the voice of the outdoors, so come on the show. Eric Artz, too, if you want to come on and talk about what happened behind the scenes, you're always welcome. You're all welcome here on The Rock Fight.
Absolutely.
All right, well, look, there's an emergency pod. We're going to wrap it up early today. Want to hit you guys up listening if you subscribe to the Rock Fight's weekly newsletter. If not, head over to rockfight.co, click join the mailing list. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast by clicking follow on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. Give us a 5-star rating when you do that as well. And send your feedback on this and every episode of The Rock Fight to myrockfight@gmail.com. And listen to Open Container, our newest podcast that launched this week. You can find that on your favorite podcast platform. And The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. For Owen Comerford, I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And he shows up even for emergency podcasts. Krista Makes here. He's going to sing the Rock Fight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock